It is, it's like the ultimate professional paradox, really.
For sure.
Because you can have this room full of brilliant, highly caffeinated people, right? And the second a projector hums to life and a slide appears on the screen, half the room is practically in a coma.
Yeah, the dreaded glaze over.
We've all been there.
Yes.
You're sitting in a meeting, the lights dim, and suddenly you're fighting this, like, deeply losing battle against sleep.
It's biological at that point.
Exactly. But then, on the flip side, you look at history, and movements are sparked. Revolutions are rallied, massive shifts in philosophy happen, all because someone stood up and delivered a presentation.
Right.
So the core question for us today is, what separates the presentations that put you to sleep from the ones that create a movement?
Well, to figure that out, we are diving into some really extensive source material focused on the art of the presentation. Specifically, we're decoding the mechanics of resonance.
Resonance, right.
Yeah, because the fundamental error most professionals make is assuming that communication is just about, transferring data from one brain to another.
Like downloading a file.
Exactly. And if that were true, we could just email a spreadsheet and cancel the meeting entirely.
Which, to be fair, a lot of people would love.
They would. But real communication, the kind that actually leaves an impact, is about leading an audience across a threshold of change.
And we are going to get into exactly how that mechanism works today in this deep dive.
We really are.
We're exploring why using standard corporate jargon is essentially wearing camouflage in the boardroom. We're going to talk about why those spreadsheets you rely on are completely insufficient for persuasion.
The spreadsheets will not save you.
They won't. And here is where it gets really interesting. We're going to uncover why the secret to a standing ovation requires stripping yourself of, main character energy.
Right.
You have to realize that you are not the hero of your own presentation.
It requires completely flipping how you view your own importance in the room.
Okay, so where do we start with this?
Well, to fix bad presentations, the sources suggest we actually look at how successful messages operate on a physical, structural level.
Like literal physics.
Literally. There is this example from the world of physics that explains the concept of resonance perfectly. The author of our source material describes an experiment her son did.
Okay.
So he took a metal plate, hooked it up to an amplifier, and poured salt all over it.
Like table salt.
Yeah, just normal salt.
Okay.
Then he started playing sound waves through the plate via the amplifier.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. Because I'm trying to picture how a high school physics experiment with salt translates to, my Tuesday morning staff meeting.
I know it sounds a bit out there, but it all comes down to how the elements react to their environment. At first, the salt on this metal plate just sort of sat there, vibrating randomly.
Just shaking around.
Right.
Yeah.
But as the frequency of the sound was raised, as he adjusted the pitch, suddenly the sound waves tightened up. The grains of salt began to jiggle, they popped into the air, and then they moved to entirely new places on the plate. They self-organized into these incredibly complex, beautiful, symmetrical patterns.
Oh, wow. So they formed a pattern just from the sound.
Exactly. And as a presenter, that is exactly what you want to happen.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, you look out at an audience, whether it's your staff, your investors, maybe a classroom, and you want them to snap, crackle, and pop into exactly the right place so you can build a new future together.
But, how does that actually happen? Because you could just hook your boardroom table up to an amplifier and blast a frequency at your boss.
No, definitely do not do that. But the mechanism behind the organization is the key. The salt didn't magically decide to tune itself to the amplifier, right?
Right.
The amplifier was adjusted until it hit the natural resonant frequency of the plate. When an object's natural vibration frequency responds to an external stimulus of the exact same frequency, that is resonance.
Oh, okay. So it's about matching.
Yes. In a presentation, you cannot force an audience to tune to your frequency. You have to tune your message to theirs.
Wait, how do I actually tune to them in a corporate setting? Do I, send out a survey beforehand asking what their frequency is?
Well, in a way, yes. You do the work to understand their current reality before you ever even open up your slide software.
Before making a single slide.
Exactly. You ask yourself, what are their KPIs? What are they afraid of? What is making their daily jobs difficult?
So you're finding out what already makes them vibrate.
Right. If you understand their baseline and adjust your message to address what they already care about, you create this willing groundswell of support.
Because they're naturally responding to it.
Yes. They aren't being dragged, kicking and screaming into your idea. They move in concert voluntarily because the message resonates with their existing needs.
That makes total sense. But, and this is but it forces us to look critically at what we are actually putting in front of them right now.
It does.
Because the sources detail this spectrum of communication. On one far end, you have the report.
Ah, yes. The report.
Right, which is exhaustive, it's informational, completely factual. Its only job is to document.
Just the facts.
Just the facts.
Mm.
But then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the story.
Which is cinema, literature, drama.
Exactly. It is entirely experiential and emotional.
And a presentation is actually supposed to sit right in the middle of that spectrum.
Right in the center.
Yeah, it is an explanation. It's an oral delivery that's supposed to balance the facts with storytelling.
But let's be honest, the reality is most people operate entirely on the report end of the spectrum.
100%.
They open up a software program, they create this dense, just brutally text-heavy document projected on a wall, and basically just host a read-along.
A terrible, boring read-along. The source is actually coined a really great term for this, slidements.
Slidements. I love that.
Yeah, documents masquerading as presentations.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, though, for a second.
Okay, lay it on me.
Let's say I'm updating the executive team on, like, quarterly projections. Isn't it just safer to hand out a data-heavy report? I mean, why take the risk of trying to be a dramatic storyteller when you're literally just talking to your colleagues about numbers on a Tuesday?
It feels safer, absolutely. I get that instinct. But the sources highlight a really harsh truth about organizational life cycles.
Which is what?
That businesses, and honestly even individual careers, go through this cycle. They start up, they grow, they mature, and then they inevitably decline unless they reinvent themselves.
So staying still is basically dying.
Exactly. Progress requires moving from a state of what is to a state of what could be. If you just hand out a report, you are merely documenting the status quo.
You're just saying, here is where we are.
Right. The text actually quotes George Bernard Shaw on this. He said, "Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything."
Wow. So even a totally mundane staff meeting is actually a platform for persuasion.
It has to be.
Because if I just read the numbers, I'm allowing the organization to get comfortable in its maturity, which, as you said, eventually leads to decline.
Precisely. You need to persuade your team to self-organize into that new future, like the salt on the plate.
Right.
And often, that future cannot be fully quantified yet. You are asking them to take a risk, to change a process, maybe to follow an instinct into territory where the statistics literally haven't been generated yet.
You can't put a number on the unknown.
You really can't. A spreadsheet cannot convince someone to take a leap of faith.
Okay, so if we know that purely factual slainements fail to persuade, why is it still the absolute gold standard in corporate America? Like, why are we so terrified to use emotion or story?
Well, because standing out feels inherently dangerous.
Just on a human level.
Yeah. The enemy of persuasion is obscurity, but human beings are biologically wired to avoid standing out.
We want to fit in.
Think about camouflage in nature. The entire purpose of camouflage is to reduce the odds that a predator will notice you. You blend into your environment so you survive.
But when is blending inappropriate for a communicator who's actively trying to drive change?
Never. Literally never. If your idea blends into the existing environment, its clarity and its chances for adoption are severely diminished. You just become invisible.
The text actually uses a really vivid analogy for this that stuck with me.
Oh, the hunting one.
Yes. It points out that if you go hunting in the woods and you don't want to be confused with the prey, you don't wear camouflage.
Right.
You wear safety orange. Because there's absolutely nothing in the woods that is naturally safety orange.
You actively clash with your environment.
Exactly. You clash so you are seen. You have to be the safety orange in your bland organization.
And let's be real, that takes immense fortitude.
It's scary.
It is terrifying to walk into a corporate office with a safety orange target on your back.
Yeah.
It is so much easier to conform to the well-worn groove of sameness.
And the primary way professionals conform, the way they hide, is through jargon.
Oh, the jargon, it's the worst.
We strip all the humanness out of our words to sound quote-unquote professional.
We really do.
The jargon is out of control. I was practically groaning reading the real-world slide examples the author pulled from actual companies.
Do you have one of them?
I do. Listen to this one. Quote, XYZ Co. creates new, innovative businesses that would minimize the return on investment period for both strategic and financial investors while experiencing significant revenue expansion.
Just word salad.
Right. If we translate that into plain English, it just means we build businesses that make money fast.
Yep.
But they wrapped it in so much corporate camouflage that it sounds like an automaton wrote it.
Presenters use that language because they think they're hiding safely behind a wall of undeniable authority.
Like, look how smart I sound.
Exactly. But easiest doesn't mean effective. People are desperate for human connection, even at work. The source is, quote, marketing expert Seth Godin on this.
What does he say?
He says, no spreadsheet, no bibliography, and no list of resources is sufficient proof to someone who chooses not to believe.
That is so true.
Right. A skeptic will always find a methodological flaw to dismiss your facts. Over-relying on proof just distracts from the actual mission, which is building personal conviction.
You know, it's like, okay, presenting just the facts is like giving someone the architectural blueprints for a house and expecting them to feel the warmth of a family dinner.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like you can see the dimensions of the dining room on the paper. You know it's a 12 by 12 room, but you can't smell the food or hear the laughter.
The blueprint speaks to the logical brain, but the dinner speaks to the gut.
Exactly.
There is a massive difference between being convinced by a logical argument and believing in something with personal conviction. Your audience might nod their heads at your logical thought process.
They might even agree with you.
Right, but they won't actually change their behavior. To get them to physically move, the sources argue you need a small thorn that is sharper than a fact to prick their hearts.
And that thorn is emotion.
That thorn is emotion.
Okay, but how do we practically use emotion in a corporate setting without turning like a Q3 review into a therapy session? Because analytical professionals get paid to execute, not to cry at their desks.
Right. Well, using emotion doesn't mean manufacturing tears.
Okay, good.
It means introducing humanness through narrative. You tell a story about a specific customer who was incredibly frustrated by the old process. Or you talk about the exact moment your team realized the current software was completely failing them.
Oh, so putting a face to the
Yeah.
problem.
Exactly. Stories literally alter the neurochemistry in our brains. When we listen to a narrative, we empathize with the risks and rewards involved, and our own values become intertwined with the message.
But using a story, especially one involving a struggle or like a realization of failure, requires vulnerability.
Yes, it does.
And once a presenter accepts that they need to be vulnerable and tell a story, they usually fall into the biggest trap in the entire process.
Oh, the biggest trap.
They make the story entirely about themselves.
Yes. Role assignment is the single most critical adjustment a presenter must make.
Think about the About Us slide.
Everyone's least favorite slide.
It's almost always the second slide in any deck.
Yeah.
It's got the company history, the market cap, the drone picture of the headquarters.
The timeline of acquisitions?
Yes. The sources compare this to arriving at a party and immediately getting cornered by a self-centered guest who only talks about their own accomplishments.
You spend the whole time looking for an excuse to walk away.
Exactly, because the conversation has absolutely no room for you.
Audiences immediately disengage from arrogance. Most presentations are heavily weighted toward what the author calls meaniness.
Meanness?
Yeah, but the unbreakable law of presenting is this. You are not the hero.
Period.
The audience is the hero.
I hear you, but that goes against every survival instinct in corporate America.
It really does.
We are taught to use presentations to prove our value to our bosses or our clients. If I did weeks of research, and I'm the one sweating under the lights bringing them the brilliant idea that will save the company, how am I not the hero?
It's tough to let go of.
If I make the audience the hero, don't I look replaceable?
That is the exact fear that drives bad presentations, but you have to separate being the source of the idea from being the agent of change.
Okay, wait, explain that difference.
Well, without the audience, your idea is just a file on your hard drive.
Right.
You are asking them to adopt the idea, to champion it, to change their daily habits, to do all the heavy lifting required to actually make it a reality. You need them far more than they need you.
That is a harsh reality check.
It is. If you step up to that microphone projecting that you are the savior rescuing them from ignorance, you radiate a condescension that immediately alienates the very people who actually control the outcome.
Because they're the ones who have to do the work tomorrow.
Exactly. True authority comes from enabling others, not boasting about yourself.
So, if they are the hero doing the heavy lifting, what is my role? What am I doing up there?
You are the mentor.
The mentor.
Yes. If we look at classic cinematic structures, you are Yoda, not Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
You are Mr. Miyagi, not the Karate Kid.
That makes so much sense.
Mm.
So practically speaking, what does the mentor do in the context of a boardroom?
Well, the mentor operates from a stance of profound humility. Your role is to give the hero guidance, confidence, insight, and magical tools so they can overcome their initial fears and start a new journey.
Magical tools, like what, a lightsaber?
In a corporate setting, those magical tools are your frameworks, your research, your actionable insights.
Oh, I see.
When you finish your presentation, the audience shouldn't be thinking about how smart you are. They should be looking at the tools you just handed them, thinking, I am finally armed with what I need to solve my problem.
Man, that reframes the entire power dynamic of a meeting.
It flips it completely.
You are basically the aide-de-camp to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, if the audience is Luke Skywalker and we are Yoda, how do we physically structure the presentation to guide them on this journey? Because I can't just hand them a lightsaber and say, good luck.
No, you need a map. And to structure a presentation that moves people, the sources draw on Hollywood's blueprints for narrative.
Like screenwriting.
Exactly. Specifically, Sid Field's paradigm, which you see in movies like The Shawshank Redemption and Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, which literally structured Star Wars.
I am geeking out a little bit right now. But how does a mythological hero's journey map onto a 15-minute slide deck about supply chain logistics?
It maps perfectly onto what the sources call the contour of communication or the presentation form.
Okay, walk me through it.
Every audience walks into your room living in what Campbell calls the ordinary world.
The status quo.
Right. So your first job, literally your first slide or opening statement, must paint an accurate, empathetic picture of their current reality. You establish the baseline of what is.
Oh, so you're acknowledging their pain points.
Right.
You're saying, I know our current supply chain is causing 2-week delays and stressing you all out.
Exactly. It builds a bond immediately because it proves you understand their context.
You get what they're going through.
Yes. But you can't leave them there.
No.
You have to trigger the first major plot point. The call to adventure.
The inciting incident.
Right. This is where you introduce your big idea by juxtaposing their ordinary world of what is well with a bold new vision of what could be.
Which creates a massive gap.
Yes, and humans detest imbalance.
And hate it.
When you clearly contrast the frustrating commonplace reality with a lofty, better future, it creates dramatic tension. Their brains crave the bridge between those two realities. They suddenly want you to resolve this imbalance.
So what does this all mean for the middle of the presentation? Because creating a gap sounds great in theory, but I can't just drop a bomb on my audience, tell them everything is wrong, show them a utopia, and then just walk away.
No, definitely don't do that.
That just creates massive anxiety. How do you manage that tension?
You manage it through pacing. You don't just explain the solution in one straight, overwhelming line. The middle of a successful presentation actually bounces back and forth between what is and what could be.
Back and forth?
Yeah. You address a specific current roadblock, what is, and then you reveal how your idea overcomes it, what could be.
Oh, I see.
Then you bring up another valid concern, what is, and counter it with another benefit of your idea, what could be.
The visual diagram of this in the sources, it literally looks like an electrocardiogram.
It does.
The line just goes up and down, back and forth. It's a heartbeat monitor.
That back and forth rhythm gives the presentation a living pulse. Instead of a flat line of sequential facts, there's an ebb and flow. It keeps the audience leaning forward, constantly waiting to see how the next point of tension resolves.
And it also respects their intelligence. Because change is hard, and your audience is naturally going to resist. If you just stand up there and talk about how perfect the future is going to be, they won't believe you.
Right, they'll think you're naive.
Exactly. But by constantly dipping back down into what is, you, as the mentor, are validating their reluctance. You're offering those magical tools to help them overcome it piece by piece.
That is the exact mechanism. You are dismantling their resistance systematically. Which brings us to the end of the presentation, the second major turning point.
The call to action.
The call to action.
This is where we cross the finish line.
Well, not quite.
Oh, really?
You have to explicitly articulate the finish line they need to cross, describing the new bliss that awaits them if they adopt your idea. But the critical distinction in the presentation form is that you, the presenter, cannot force them across that line.
Oh, because they're the hero.
Exactly. You bring them to the threshold. They have to voluntarily choose to step out of the ordinary world and into the special world you've mapped out.
Because if it's not their choice, if you force them, just a mandate, right?
Yeah.
It's not a movement.
Precisely. But if you have tuned to their frequency, provided that sharp thorn of emotion, and guided them as a humble mentor, they will take that step.
Man, This framework completely changes how you have to prepare for the next time you have the floor.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Let's recap the mission we set out on today.
Yeah.
If you want to transform a room full of passive colleagues into a groundswell of support, you have to ditch the sligements.
Burn them.
Stop handing out exhaustive data reports and expecting people to feel inspired. You have to be brave enough to wear your safety orange and start hiding behind the comfortable camouflage of corporate jargon.
No more XYZ Co.
No more of that. You need to use the sharp thorn of emotion, telling stories that build personal conviction, because facts alone will never convince a skeptic. Crucially, you have to realize that you are Yoda, not Luke Skywalker. The audience is the hero doing the heavy lifting. You are just there to give them the tools to succeed. And structurally, you do that by continually contrasting the ordinary world of what is with the special world of what could be, keeping that heartbeat monitor pulsing until they are ready to cross the threshold.
It is a profound shift in responsibility. And, it leaves us with an interesting inversion to consider as we wrap up this deep dive.
What's that?
We've spent this entire time talking about how you can be the mentor, the Yoda, to your audience. But if you take a step back and look at your own career, your own daily environment, who are the Yodas currently presenting to you?
Oh, wow.
Who is out there trying to show you the gap between what is and what could be? And more importantly, are you resisting their call to adventure out of comfort, or are you finally ready to cross your own threshold?
That is a lot to chew on. The next time the lights dim and the projector hums to life, remember, you don't have to settle for the muddy waters of the ordinary world. You can be the catalyst for the special one. Thank you for taking this journey with us, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.